Hey YouTube, welcome, welcome, welcome. YouTube, Facebook. What else we streaming through today? I don't think I pulled in anyone else. So come on in, come on in. I want to have a conversation. I want to have a serious conversation, a conversation about this whole deep deportation matter that the U.S. is currently dealing with. It's been a thing for a long time. President-elect Donald Trump is like, listen, you all have voted me in for the next 4 years as your president, your leader, and we got to make some changes because what we've been doing, it just has not been working. So I want to talk about these changes as it pertains to deportation, uh, the deportation of illegal immigrants that is currently in the USA. I want to talk about it. I want to uh, learn your thoughts for one, but also I want to get into the thoughts or the opinions, the comments that other people have made pertaining to this matter, politicians, news outlets, things like that. It's like people are divided when it comes to this matter. Some feel like, hey, it is a thing and it's the primary reason why I elected President Donald Trump. And then some people feel like, well, I mean, it's not that serious. I don't think it's really been a problem like that. And I'm not here for what he's trying to do. So I want to talk about that. I want to get an understanding as to what it is he trying to do. What's the situation as of now with immigration and what's going on? Is it a problem? Like, is it a problem? Do you feel like it's a problem? I have a poll up. Definitely would love to know how you feel about it. Are you in agreement with President-elect Donald Trump's stance on mass deportation? I want to know that because I want to get a temperature feel because it's a lot of people that are here for it. And there's a lot of people that are not. So we got a lot of things to cover today. So definitely, if you have any questions, comments, like engage, participate in the chat. I love to interact with my followers in the chat. And, we try to work together to understand what's going on. What's going on? It is a lot. Uh, I found some different things out here on the internet pertaining to this matter, some articles, and I have some videos, some news footage that I want to get in. Let me share my screen because I came across some articles that's kind of just laying it out just in like black and white as to like what the issue is, uh, the things that President-elect Donald Trump's wanting to address or try to resolve, things that he's identifying as being a whole problem out here. And, what he's identifying as a problem, there are many who are not. So we're quite divided right now as it pertains to this matter with the deportation. It's layered. I get that it's very layered, and I don't think it's really a quick fix to it, but I do feel like it deserves some attention to it. So this article, this is from the New York Times, and it reads, immigration lawyers prepare to battle Trump in court again. So people are just ready to kind of roll their sleeves up and battle President-elect Donald Trump in the court because they're just not here for these ideas, what some may believe as extreme ideas that he has as it pertains to resolving the issue, what he believed to be the issue with the immigration matter in the USA. So the article reads, nearly 8 years after the first challenges to his immigration policies, Donald Trump is returning to the White House, promising a more aggressive crackdown. So he's like, listen, we're going to change up some things. He literally ran his campaign like heavily focused on immigration and getting that together because he's like, listen, it's a whole problem out here and it's gotten out of hand. It wasn't like this when I last was in the White House. It's gotten worse. So it's time to reel things back in. So this article reads, it was just days into his first term when President Trump issued an order banning the entry of people from several predominantly Muslim countries. And SOS went out to immigration lawyers across New York to head to Kennedy Airport, where arriving passengers were already being detained. So, child, people coming up into this country like a free for all. You can't even get into Six Flags on a free for all. Like, they stop you at the gate, with your coin, with your ticket. But to me, it seems like with the borders, everything is just wide open. They listen, they just walking on like they just going to the beach. We going to Miami and we just about to walk onto the beach. So that's the energy that is giving me when it comes to our borders. It's just nothing that's respected. It's like if you got the endurance to make that journey, because a lot of them are walking. If you got the endurance, baby, listen, you deserve to be in here. That's the energy it's giving, because it's not no, okay, up the street and around the corner type trip. Like, these people are traveling with children, with backpacks, like bags, carts, whatever, for like miles. And then this is taking place over the course of days, weeks, some probably even months. So they are really trucking it. So the article goes on to say, by noon, hundreds of lawyers were interviewing relatives and friends of travelers who were being held, challenging their detention and drafting petitions for their release. The mobilization that morning in 2017 spawned a network of hundreds of lawyers who are now ready to fight the crackdown on immigration that Mr. Trump promised to carry out in a second term in office. After his decisive victory over Kamala Harris, Mr. Trump is expected to name key cabinet choices in the coming days and weeks, including his nominee to lead the Department of Homeland Security. And in the coming years, a harsher crackdown on the migrants is expected, something immigration lawyers have prepared for months. So these immigration lawyers, like, they done rolled their sleeves up. They like, we about to, this is what we built for this. We built for this. We went to school for this. We ready. We taking you to this courthouse. We're going to hash this out, because what you're doing, it's not right. It's not legal. I don't know what their argument is about to be, but Trump is ready and they are ready. But like I said, it just seems like it's given that right now it's just open borders. So if you're able, like I said, to have the endurance to put in those miles to get here, then you're able to just walk in. So that's what's going on right now. I want to play a news clip where, let me show the, I want to play a news clip where it's helping to break down what Trump's deportation pledge is. Because remember, this man, he ran his campaign on, listen, y'all like me, I'm gonna get these borders together. we not gonna have just this free for all that we've been having. So we're about to get over into that. If you come as you come in, please like, share, and subscribe. Engage in the chat. Let me know your thoughts on this. But let's just see what exactly this man's plan is, and then how are people feeling about this plan that he has. So fair use. Let's get into it.
One of my new administration, the invasion ends and the deportations begin. We get them out.
On the campaign trail, President-elect Donald Trump repeatedly promised to launch what he calls the largest deportation operation in American history, targeting undocumented immigrants. By the way, there are roughly 11 million undocumented immigrants living in this country today. And a CBS News analysis found it would cost up to $216 billion over Trump's next term to deport them all. Just to break that down, that's $54 billion per year.
So let's stop right there. So that's a lot. 11 million people is estimated here illegally. 11 million. So Trump's like, hey, we're getting them out of here. The cost is going to be $216 billion over the course of 4 years to have them sent back to, I guess, wherever they came from. They just won't be here. And then, but they're saying this is going to equate $54 billion a year that Americans, U.S. that will be paying out. Is the money there? That is the question. Do the U.S., like we always hear about being in debt and all of that. So these numbers show that it's a lot of money that it's going to cost to put his plan into place. Like, okay, we see the plan, but can we afford it? That's the question. But the fact that it's 11 million illegal immigrants here in the USA, it's crazy. That's just insane. It's insane. So let's continue on with this article, with this news report.
For comparison, last year's budget allocation for the Immigration and Customs Enforcement was just $9 billion. But beyond the price tag, the bigger question is, how exactly would these massive deportations work? Trump has said he'll deploy the National Guard to detain undocumented immigrants, tap into local law enforcement to keep track of them, and ramp up workplace raids. He has pledged to invoke the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, which allows the president to detain and remove immigrants during wartime. The last time it was used was during World War II for the internment of Japanese Americans. And of course, Congress later apologized and provided reparations for Japanese internment, acknowledging that it was rooted in racial prejudice.
So is a mass deportation plan possible? Joining us now to talk about it, someone with a lot of knowledge on the subject, the former acting director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement during the Obama administration, John Sandwig. John, thank you very much for being here. I appreciate it. We mentioned Japanese internment, but there are other episodes of mass deportation efforts in the U.S. That are a little bit closer, analogies almost. In the 1930s, there was a Depression-era effort to get rid of Mexican workers who would come into the country. In the 1950s, the more famous one, Operation Wetback, that racial slur there that the Eisenhower administration used. And then, controversially, when you were in office there in the Obama administration, more than 2.5 million people were deported, largest number of any administration, 400,000 a year in some cases. How did it work in that modern case? And are there lessons there for how Trump might do it?
There really aren't lessons there for how Trump might do it. The situation during the Obama years was a little bit different. A lot of those numbers, there's a common misconception that those numbers were people who are living in the interior of the United States, the 11 million we're talking about now. What primarily during the Obama years, these were people who had just crossed the border. But at that time, very few of those people were claiming asylum. And so administratively, DHS had the authority to issue what are called expedited removal orders and then transport those people back to Mexico. And the overwhelming majority of them at that time were Mexican nationals. Of course, today our border is radically different. We're seeing a large number of people from a variety of nations coming across the border, all of whom are claiming asylum. And what that has done is really overwhelmed our immigration courts. And so this kind of leads to what is Trump's biggest problem today, which is despite all these resource constraints, despite these promises to use the National Guard or state and local law enforcement, he needs to find a way to get around those immigration courts, because with the current backlogs, there's just no real possibility at all that he can provide due process and get 1 million people out of the country in a year.
But John, to take that number, 1 million, which is, I think J.D. Vance has brought that up. He said, we'll start there and move on from that moment. According to ICE, there is about 1.3 million people who have been told by a judge that their asylum claim is denied and they've been told to leave, but they haven't yet. Wouldn't that be the place to start?
Yeah, look, there's been a lot of confusion about this issue, and I want to address that. First,
welcome. Hello, Ariane. What's up? Welcome, everyone. Please hit the like button as you come on in. So what they're saying is that a lot of people, if you're coming over and it's for an asylum, that's kind of have been like that, almost like that pass to be able to come over here and maybe bypass some of the processes that are in place when immigrants come to the USA. So when I look up the definition of asylum, it says asylum is a form of protection that allows a foreign national to stay in the U.S. instead of being deported to their home country. To qualify for asylum, a person must meet the definition of a refugee. A refugee, which is someone who is unable or unwilling to return to their home country due to persecution or fear of persecution. Asylum is a discretionary status, meaning that some people may be denied asylum even if they meet the definition of a refugee. So the question is, who's technically out? Remember, I said it's 11 million people, 11 million immigrants that's over here illegally. What percentage, who falls under the category of asylum? And it's saying that a lot of them are saying, okay, I'm on here under asylum. So, it's almost like the past that they're looking to have to be able to come over here illegally. Many people believe, even myself, like I have no problem with whoever coming over to the USA. I just feel like you should follow due process. Like when we go to other countries, we have to pull out our passports. Y'all know how I be, when you go to these other countries, you got to abide by the rules that are in place wherever you're stepping foot in. No different here. I just feel like, it should just be the same energy just wherever you go. If there's rules, regulation, processes, a lot of times, those things are in place to keep order for everyone's safety. It's a reason why we have rules, processes, regulations, laws, all of that. It's just to keep things in order, versus because when you don't have order, the opposite of that is going to be confusion. So the problem is that a lot of people are bypassing just the protocol, the process that it takes to come over here and to become a U.S. citizen. So it's just became like a whole just big issue right now. And this is where we are today. It's crazy. Hello, Aqua Rose. How you doing? Thank you. Great time. Listen, it's serious out here. It's serious. Y'all let me know your thoughts on this matter. Make sure if you all please participate with the poll that I have out there. Are you here for this mass deportation? Are you like, nah, let these people live, let them stay? You have some people who feel like, crime is up and things like that at the hands of many people who are illegal immigrants. So, like, what's your stand on that? There are a lot of people whose vote came from Trump got their vote because of the immigration matter. It's a sensitive topic. It's very serious. A lot of people just as they were watching this whole election, they were on pins and needles because some people, have family members who are over here illegally. They may be over here illegally. So the decision on who was going to be the next president was like major because it was going to impact their lives as far as their ability to still remain here and feel like, they're not looking over their shoulder wondering if somebody gonna tap them and say, can you show me your paperwork? And they're not gonna have it, and they gotta get sent back to where they came from. Like, people really have legit been losing sleep over this matter. It's a very serious matter. The way Trump plans to take drastic and extreme measures, but at the same time, many believe that the state of our country, when it comes to the immigration issue, it's out of hand. It's out of order. It's out of control. So his drastic measures are needed. So, it's just so divided. But let's just get back to this news clip. These attorneys are like, listen, we waiting for you, Trump. We're going to take you to court because you can't do this. It's going to cost our country a lot of money. We ain't got that kind of money to be paying to get these people, round them all up, because it's going to take resources. You're going to have, law enforcement, military, whoever going knocking on doors, showing up, at people's homes, showing up on their jobs, rounding these people up. Then you're going to have to, okay, well, when you get them, what are you putting them in? You got to have the vehicle, the transportation to haul them to someplace. Then when you haul them someplace, you got to have a place that's going to be able to house hundreds, thousands of illegal immigrants until you're able to get them on a plane, because it's going to be a plane. They ain't going to have them walk back home like how they got here or put them on a boat. They're going to be put on planes. Y'all, I can see, how it's going to be very, very expensive. It's going to be very, very expensive. But at the end of the day, the question is, will it be worthwhile? Will the U.S. be in a better place as a result of doing all of this? Some people even wondering like, yo, if we get rid of all them, who finna do these jobs? Who finna do these jobs that a lot of these illegal immigrants do? Who finna raise their hand? Who finna sign up to do this work? Because we gonna need stuff done. So if you done got rid of all the help, who's gonna be here? Who's finna be here, rolling their sleeves up and getting his work in? Like, so it's a lot of people like that have questions. Like, y'all, I knew times were different when a couple of years ago in my community, I went into the soul food restaurant and all the cooks was Hispanic. I listen, y'all, I had never seen nothing like that. I'm used to going into our soul food restaurants and seeing Black folk. That ain't what I seen. They were literally, Hispanic people cooking, working in the kitchen. And here and there, sprinkled, you'll see somebody Black, but mostly you were seeing what I was seeing in this restaurant was Hispanic people. So I'm like, wow, wow, things that now this has been, just within the past 4 years since, Biden's administration. Prior to that wasn't a thing. I live in Georgia. Metro Atlanta. This is what I was seeing, and I found it to be very interesting. It kind of played like it was a mind. It was like playing mind tricks because anyone, culture, Black folks, when you go into a Black restaurant, soul food restaurant, you're seeing Black workers. You may see somebody who's non-Black that might serve you at the table, but you dang sure ain't seeing non-Black in the kitchen. That's what you're not going to do. That is what I was seeing. And I'm like, wow, this is different. It just was very different for me. It's almost like, think about going into a Mexican restaurant and in the kitchen, you seeing white folk in there, Asians, Black people. Like when you go into a Mexican restaurant, you're seeing Mexican people. I'll have like waiters, who may be Black, whatever, but in that kitchen, behind that kitchen, I have never gone into a Mexican restaurant and seen anyone non-Mexican in the kitchen at an authentic Mexican restaurant. I live in Georgia. In Georgia, that is not, and that's my favorite type of food. I'm from California. I eat Mexican once a week, y'all. They know my name. They know my order. I be like, y'all don't tell my family, my husband when he coming here with me, how often y'all see me, because I be up in there. But I've never seen anyone non-Mexican in the kitchen. So it's very different today. So again, as we are getting into this, just think about that with what the USA would look like if if a lot of immigrants were no longer here. So let's get back to this news clip. Thank you. Welcome. Please like, share, and subscribe. And let me know your thoughts on this, child, because it's layered. It's definitely layered. Fair use.
First of all, the administration oftentimes has said we're going to focus first on these criminals, right? These transnational gang members who legitimately are operating unlawfully in the United States, people who commit violent felonies, et cetera. And I think we all agree that that's a critical population for ICE to go after. But if you're trying to get to 1 million, you need to look for that low-hanging fruit. Populations like the one you just referenced, individuals who already have that final order of removal in place. So if you look at the 1.3 million, that means you need to spend, it's a tremendous effort to go find them, I guess is what I want to say. A lot of those people, to the extent that's an accurate number, that they're all recent asylum seekers. They're back out they're throughout the country, and it takes a lot of investigative work to find them. I think the notion that ICE is going to be able to go, at least in year one, and grab 1 million of those individuals who might already have a final order and apprehend them is just not accurate. But more importantly is when you're deploying all the agents to do that work, they're not doing the work on the criminals, where I think we all agree that, to promote public safety, we want them focused.
So there's really an opportunity cost there. John, let's talk about the human side of this.
So this man was talking about, like, it's not even like, say, with the deportation of what Trump's wanting to focus on is on the criminals, because he's like, with the number of immigrants that are here, it's not a high percentage of them that are criminals. I definitely agree with that. I don't feel like most of the immigrants or illegal immigrants that we have here fall under the category of somebody who's doing criminal activity. I do not believe that at all. So his thought is, well, why that's not, it's not like, maybe it'll be better if that was like his focus, where we would just focus on, okay, the ones who over here just not doing right, not living right. He's like, look, Trump trying to hit them all, regardless of if they're over here, they're working hard, they're helping building communities. Like, he's like, Trump's trying to go after all of them. My thing is that when you do have the illegal immigrants here, they're not paying into taxes. How? If they're illegal, it's almost like it's undocumented. So how are you paying into these taxes? A lot of immigrants, in particular, like Hispanics and things, they'll get paid just with cash, what you call under the table. In my community, and you may see them in your community, you'll see like certain areas, maybe in front of like home building stores. They'll be in parking lots just waiting for someone to maybe come by and pick up someone, for work, and they'll take them to whatever jobs, that they working on, whoever, this particular contractor or business owner. They might, show up to that parking lot. They'll see a group of men, be like, listen, I need three. So the three that want to take on the job, they go ahead and get in the vehicle and they go do that work. They're getting paid for that day. There's no taxes or anything that they're paid. So that's also a concern that people who are American citizens, we think about, is because when we pay taxes and then there's increases on things, it's factoring in, okay, the population. Okay, so when they decide like, man, we need to raise 10 million for X, Y, and Z, that's based off of population. That population count is factoring in people who are over here illegally. So we're paying for that because they're a part of the numbers. It is what it is. They're part of the numbers. So that's why it's important where, okay, if everyone's going to be here, everyone just treated equally, meaning everyone contribute to the upkeep of the country, meaning contribute to the costs that it is to operate the country. And that's where, how they justify taxes, whether, we're here, there for taxes or not. That's a whole nother conversation, another live. But the point of the matter is we as American citizens are required to pay taxes, and and the explanation behind that is to basically keep the ship going, to pay into these resources that we have access to, or when we may fall in need, be able to have access to. But the sad part about it is that, and I've experienced it even myself, to where there's been times where myself or people who need these resources that we pay into, when we go to apply for them, to want to get them because we're in need, we're declined, we're turned away for whatever reason. Oh, well, you get unemployment, so you make too much. Versus I've heard time and time again, multiple times, where there'll be someone over here who's undocumented, but they've managed to be able to get access to these same resources that people such as myself or you pay taxes in, who cannot get access to these resources. So y'all, it's levels to it. So is that fair? Should someone who does not pay into the system be able to utilize the system at their time of need before who actually pays into the system? That is a whole thing. I know multiple people who have paid into the system, and when they're kind of down and out and they need resources and help, they're unable to get it. Just like, our homeless, like our numbers dealing with homeless is like crazy. I live in, Atlanta. It's crazy here in Atlanta. I'm from California. I know it's crazy in San Francisco. And I know in other areas, New York, there's other areas where just across our country, homeless rates is just out of control. So really, can we afford to have an influx of undocumented illegal immigrants coming into our country, where the citizens here are struggling and are on the streets? Like, we just got to really make it make sense. It's what fact over feeling. So it's not about feelings of, oh, I don't want this person over here. It's, are we taking care of home first? Are we taking care of the people who are already American citizens? Do they have resources? Do they have food? Do they have shelter? Do they have jobs? Do they have transportation? You take care of them first before you open up and say, okay, now those of you who come from someplace else, what do you got? What you got going on? What are your needs? Let's see how we can help you. That's, you take care of home first. That's just basic common sense. But right now, it seems like we're not taking care of home, but we got everything open for those who are not residents of our home to just come inside. Like, just think about your own household. You know what your finances are, how much it takes to keep things going. Do you have the money, the resources to have the door to your home, wide open for just any person to come in, to be able to come sit at the table, go in the refrigerator? It's no difference. I'm bringing it back to a personal level for you to see what I'm talking about. Home is home. Your home, your finances. Can you afford to take in 5 more people into your household? Knowing what your situation is, do you have the means, the resources to take in 5 additional bodies right now? If you just open up your door and 5 additional bodies, adults and children, came through your door, would you be able to afford to handle all costs associated with those 5 people? That is the question. That's equivalent to what's going on with our country. We got open borders. Can we afford to take on all of those additional people into our country to utilize, all the resources that we have? Can we afford it? Many people say, no, we can't afford it. We ain't got it. Like in the words of Tasha K, I ain't got it. I ain't got it. It is what it is. But now Trump wanting to say, hey, we need to send these people back. And they're like, yo, that's going to cost a lot of money. And we ain't got that. So it's just like, what they say, damn if you do, damn if you don't. Like, both directions, like we ain't got it. It's just, we're in a tough bind right now because the fix is going to be so costly They say like right now it's like 9 billion dedicated to dealing with the immigration issue, but with Trump's plan, it's going to cost about 54 billion a year to put in place the plan he has with the mass deportation. So they like, we already over budget. We already over budget. Before he even get in the house and start implementing his plan, we over. Like, you can look at the math ain't mathing. It's like, okay, I get your plan, but we don't have the money for that. So that's a whole situation right there. Where is this money going to come from to implement his plan? Whether we're here for it or not, where is the money coming from? Because it's a lot of money. Will there be more monies placed on us with taxes and things like that to fill in the gap, to remember to add to the already 9 billion that's already allocated for it? Because remember, we got to get up to 54 billion. So where the rest of the dang 47 billion dollars coming from? Like, where is that coming from to fix this problem? Questions. Y'all know when I got questions, I come to this internet and go to StreamYard and hit live, go live, because I got a lot of questions, and I know many of you all have questions, which is why I want to talk about this topic. Let's get back to this this news clip. Fair use, please. Welcome. Please answer the poll, and please hit the like button as you come on in. Like, share, and subscribe. Fair use.
Estimated 4.5 million people who are part of mixed status families. These are undocumented people who might be married to a citizen, or the son or a daughter or parent of a citizen. How will this impact them? Because this would separate families, and we all still remember Trump's family separation policy, which is still fresh in our minds.
That's right. So right now, ICE, is fully deployed against folks primarily on criminal aliens. So what that means is individuals who have been booked in state and local jails or federal jails or are getting out of prison. The agency is incredibly effective at that. And one thing I think we didn't hear on the campaign trail is really the fact that it's, everybody who gets booked into a state, local jail or prison today is on ICE's radar screen. ICE either lodges a detainer on them or takes them into custody. So when you start talking about who then is going to be deported, if we're going to elevate from the 267,000 people that are deported in Trump during the Trump year per year versus 1 million a year. There's no way you get to that population without getting into the larger 11 million. And all of the data about that population tells us a couple of things. One, they've been here a long time. Majority of them have been here 10 to 15 years. And two, a very large percentage of them are in these mixed status families. That means they have a U.S. citizen spouse, they have a U.S. citizen child. There is no way to do this without separating those families or putting them into a situation where the U.S. citizen children need to leave the country with their parents.
Yeah, John, there's no way to do it without a lot of money, a lot of heartbreak. I mentioned the Hoover effort in the 1930s, a Depression era moment, and then in the 1950s. In both those cases, when cooler heads were able to look back historically, there were citizens who were deported and there were separations of families. It's a very tough situation, no way around that fact. John, thank you very much.
It's a sad situation. That's why I say it's very layered, because some of these people who've come over here illegally have created families here. So they may have hooked up with someone who is a legal citizen, and then they've had children. So the children are legal citizens. But guess what? Mama or daddy who came over here illegally, they're not citizens. And so, it just creates another issue, because now we're breaking families. Hey, Suze, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Please, let me know you got your comment, your thoughts pertaining to this matter. It's a serious situation. It's not just impacting those who have come over here illegally. It's impacting like their entire families, because now they've been over here for a while. Let's just say at least 4 years. Let's just say they came during the Biden-Harris administration. That's long enough to be over here and start building families, get a job, secure, a home, shelter. You got cars, like just what they say, living the American dream. I would imagine there's quite a few of them like who are just living the good life over here. And now it's just like, they're worried like, okay, am I going to get a knock on the door where I'm being asked to show my paperwork and I ain't got no paperwork because I didn't come through, here legally. So these people are running scared. They're running scared. Let me see. There was something else. that I came across with New York. Uh, it says New York buses migrants back to Texas because Trump won. So they like, listen, we need y'all to turn this bus back around because yeah, I know under Biden y'all was able to come and do all this and do the most, but listen, yeah, the way them numbers came in, Trump kind of won. So yeah, can y'all go ahead and do a UE and back that thing on up? Y'all, let me show this. Because they have to switch gears. You know, people change up what they say, change your plan. Change your plan. It's a lot of change of plans. And people are pissed off. They're like, what? What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? Like, I've already lined up stuff. I got a plan. I got a job waiting. What do you mean? Let's get into it. Let's get into it. You all let me know your thoughts. Have you completed the poll? Are you here for this mass deportation? Are you like, nah, Trump, leave them folks alone. Let them stay here. We good. We got enough money to, let everybody ride. Let me know. What's your thoughts? Let's get into this fair use.
Plane and bus tickets to other states. So Abbott sends migrants to New York. Then New York spends all this money, millions, to send them back to Texas. The Big Apple has spent more than...
So Texas has sent around 30,000 people to New York on buses, and it looks like New York is now trying to send them back. In fact, asylum seekers here can not only get a free plane or bus ticket anywhere in the world, after their shelter stays expire, they're forced to reapply for housing at a location where these are handed out, revealing that even though New York is America's largest sanctuary city, our leaders don't want people staying here for some reason.
Governor Greg Abbott might have thought that he had the last laugh when he bussed tens of thousands of migrants from his state to New York City. But the Big Apple's mayor, Eric Adams, might have one-upped him. Adams is sending 4,500 arrivals back to the Lone Star State.
Adams is also returning migrants to Illinois, Florida, and Colorado. Abbott's office blasted Adams' move, saying, quote, hypocritical Mayor Adams said busing migrants is morally bankrupt.
I voted for Trump because of the economy.
Much like the trend nationally, many New York voters this year were driven by the economy and immigration, especially after Texas Governor Greg Abbott started busing migrants here 2 years ago.
Throughout his campaign, President-elect Donald Trump promised sweeping changes to what he painted as an out-of-control immigration system. And now with his presidency secured, immigration advocates in New York City say they're bracing for what's to come.
Suddenly, it's not a sanctuary city all of a sudden, as they want to send the people back to Texas.
So, as New York continues to tout its sanctuary city status, it's secretly doing everything possible to help people leave. But what nobody's talking about is that this is just the latest example of how the asylum crisis has failed to bring about any meaningful improvements in the lives of asylum seekers. Because although over 200,000 have come to New York after our city offered them the American dream and a place to stay, the place to stay kicks them out after 1 or 2 months before most asylum seekers have had time to get jobs or plug into the local economy. Something we were all told wasn't going to happen here, as our leaders bragged about how our city had thousands of jobs just waiting to be filled by people getting off buses right here at the bus terminal. But if you visit any of the city's 200 asylum shelters, you'll see that asylum seekers are facing just as much poverty and joblessness here in America as they were in their home country.
So as we see, even those who are coming here, illegally, because, for asylum, those numbers of people who are now looking for work, illegal immigrants, it's added to the numbers of people as far as with the American citizens who are already looking for work. You see what I'm saying? So it's like now you got more people to compete against with trying to get the job. And then when that happens, guess what? It becomes, what do they say? Kind of like in housing, a seller's or a buyer's market, it becomes basically the company, the business has a control to be able to say, okay, well, since there's a lot of you want this one job, we'll, maybe give it to the person who will be willing to take it for this lower amount, versus say the American citizen who knows, okay, yeah, I know that job is warranted, at least a $20 an hour job. Someone who's maybe here illegally would be like, look, I'll do the job for $10. I'll do it for half the price. You see, so it's like it's the undercut. So Americans, missing out on job opportunities because there are many people who are like, listen, I'll do it for half the price, half the pay. Like, I just need the job. So that's more people to compete against. It's just it's so many moving parts to the whole situation, to where like I said, you have to look beyond your emotions of, oh, these families are going to be broken up, and these people should be like, you really have to think about from a logistics standpoint, and an infrastructure standpoint, how everything is impacted when you just have borders and things open for everyone to come. It creates havoc and discomfort and unease for those who are American citizens. It's like it's already a struggle just being an American citizen, with trying to just live and have the basics, with just competing against just your fellow American citizens. Now you got to compete against those who aren't even citizens. And then those people like, yo, I mean, I'm not like the American. I don't need to do the job for $20 an hour. I'll do it for 8. I'll do it for 10. Who do you think that business owner is going to give the job to? The person who's saying, yo, I need $20 an hour to do that? Or the person who's saying I can do it for 10? Or I can do it for 8? They're going to go where they can save the most money. So they're going to go with the person who's willing to accept the lower wages. That's just more often than not, what a business, owner is going to do. Therefore, that's more money they can keep in the bank, and that lowers, what do you call that, operational costs. It drastically cuts their operational costs when they do that. And that's why a lot of companies do that, where they'll do like things with offshore, with outsourcing things, because it's cheaper. It's cheaper for them to outsource jobs and have someone, a foreigner do the job, than an American citizen who will require more. And the reason why we require more is it's just because we know our value. Like, so it's nothing wrong with the American citizen who's saying, yo, I need 20 for it, because we know the value of the American dollar. The American dollar is stronger than other places. So of course it does. Of course, somebody in America like, yeah, I need 20 for that, versus say somebody in Mexico say, oh, I'll do 10. The cost of living, everything is just different. So the amount of monies and things and the wages that we're demanding, it's in line with what we know we need just to even try to stay afloat. This is just to even just try to stay afloat. Even with the $20 an hour, that's probably still with the American citizens still having some people to split the rent with. That's not even them being able to think they about to go out and buy a house. That's just them to stay afloat, just to stay afloat. So it's not like we're greedy. American citizens are greedy. We know our worth and we know the value here. So that's where that comes from, with us saying, hey, I need to make this. But like I said, you got an immigrant here like, yo, I mean, I do it for half that. The business owner gonna be like, bet, all right, come on. So when can you start? And that's what happens. So listen, come on. Aqua Rose says truth. Like, this is how it works, y'all. This is not like deep. Like, this is the way it is. It's real basic. It's real basic. But let's get back to this video. Fair use.
And honestly, it's really sad to see thousands of able-bodied people who were lied to with no way to better their lives by working and living independently. And whether or not you are for or against the asylum crisis, it should be pretty obvious that in order to get so many people to travel to a place which has no opportunity for them, you've got to tell them something that's not true. And observers say that's what's happened in New York, as thousands of people were allowed to move into our shelter system believing in a future that doesn't exist, only to be moved out of it a few months after they get here because the shelter system is full, and new people who believe there's a future here for them also need to stay there for 1 or 2 months as well. Which brings us to the real reason why New York has this bus program. Once people figure out that this is not some magical land of opportunity, they're faced with the reality that staying here isn't gonna help them. Something our leaders have known would happen all along, yet because of New York's proud progressive values, admitting our policies just waste money while failing to help people isn't on the table. And as you're about to see, while New York is quietly helping people leave, it's also doubling down on sanctuary city policies it already has proof aren't working. As a knee-jerk reaction to President Trump's re-election, which most people here thought wasn't gonna happen.
So it's from what he's saying, it's like with these people who are getting kicked out of, like, say, so they're in New York and it's like, yes, come over here. You can come over here for the asylum, whatever. They'll put them up someplace for like 1-2 months. And after that, it's like they recycled out. All right, then it's time for you to go. We got a new batch of people coming. Keep your head up. So now they put out on the street. Remember, so they basically out on the street standing next to the American citizen who was already out on the street. So you got the illegal immigrant out there on the street. You got the American citizen out there on the street. And now you got a new busload of people who getting off the bus going into the hotel, where the school, wherever they was keeping the people at, to stay there for 2 months. And guess what? In 2 months, in 60 days, they finna be out there on the street next to the ones who were already out there on the street who still haven't managed to get jobs. Y'all see, like, it's a vicious cycle. So that's how we got up to 11 million. If anybody want to know how we got to 11 million, that's how we got to 11 million. That system right there, what they say, wash, rinse, repeat. That's the system. Now, New York mayor like, oh, y'all got to go up, get up out of here, because Trump coming up in here and he finna shut some stuff down, and some things and resources that we were able to pour into y'all. We ain't got what they say in words of Tasha K. I ain't got it. Mayor of New York talking about I ain't got it. So that's where they trying to put them on buses to ship them up out of there, because New York like, well, I ain't got it. If the federal government, whatever, they not trying to come through with resources to help out, whatever, then y'all can't stay here because we ain't got it. On the state level, we ain't got it. So y'all got to roll out. So now you got all these people who have been able to just walk up in here being told that, yeah, sure, you can come. And we gonna put you up, you can have a piece of this pie, American dream. We gonna put you up in housing. They ain't telling them for how long. They're just saying, yeah, we got you. And then I guess when they get here, then they learn it's like a 30, 60-day type situation. And then they out on the street with their families, with the American citizens who are already out there on the street with their families. So now you got a bunch of people. That's why you see homelessness. It's crazy. It's out of control, because it's not just Americans who are homeless. It's the immigrants also who are homeless. And, this is how we got here. But that's just in a nutshell with my little understanding of what the heck going on. That's how I'm concluding of like what we're seeing transpire here. But let's get back into this video. Welcome. Please like the video, like, share, subscribe. Let me know your comments. Make sure you complete the survey. Are you here for Trump's deportation plan? If you are, if you're not, let me know in the comments. Let's talk about it. But I will say is we got a serious problem, and we do have to do something. We do have to do something. So let's get back to this video. Very useful.
So here we are at the Port Authority bus terminal, where around 4,500 asylum seekers have gotten tickets back to Texas, some on the very buses they arrived on. And the irony here is that New York, the sanctuary city, is proving that it's not able to help people, even though that's what it claims its purpose is. But what it can do is set people up for failure while still being able to claim, hey, we're progressive. We still have a right to shelter. We're still...
Y'all know tent cities. Have y'all ever seen tent cities wherever you live? You see, this is a tent. That's how you end up getting those tent cities where you'll see parking lots. Here in Georgia, where I live in the suburbs, so I'm like outside of like the city. Like I'm like an hour away from Atlanta. So I live in what's considered Metro Atlanta. Where I live, I don't see homelessness like a lot. Every now and then, I'll see someone like where it looked like they migrated way out here and they're on the corner. But you mostly see it in the inner city, maybe around the freeways where you'll see tents like what's on the screen. Yes, Aqua Rose, it's an entire mess. It's an entire mess. You'll see tents like this along the highway, our major highways, 285, 85. Like if any of you been to Atlanta, it's heavy traffic. We have a lot of, highways that intertwine with one another. It's known as Spaghetti Junction. It's just all these highways that kind of is crazy. You can get lost easily if you're not familiar with driving in Atlanta. But you see these tents, but tent cities, people ain't got nowhere to stay. Rent is crazy. The South is considered to be more of one of the cheaper places to live in comparison to, say, New York or San Francisco. But right now, even here in Atlanta, Georgia, things are expensive. So it makes me wonder, well, if it's $2,000 for, a one bedroom, like how much is it costing in New York or, San Francisco? Of Georgia is supposed to be cheaper than the other places. Y'all, it is crazy. It's ridiculous. But this is the background as to how we got here. Akaro says, have you heard about some of the migrants getting more food and housing assistance than Americans get access to in certain cities? I don't agree with that. Yes, I've heard about it. That's why I talked about, like, I know from experience, I know people who needed assistance and things like that, things that they've worked jobs for many years, paid taxes into. They find themselves unemployed. I was unemployed before from a layoff, and I tried to get assistance with getting will be known as food stamps, things like that. And they're like, oh, rejected. Nope. Denied. Why? Well, you get unemployment. Unemployment was just a couple of $100 a week, but it's crazy. But though, yes, I hear of people, migrants coming in, and they're just immediately same day getting food stamps, WIC, public, they getting all the assistance, everything that life has to offer, right? Like instantly, Medicaid, they just getting everything. And I'm hearing some of them have even been able to vote, get into that. So it's a lot. But I definitely believe it is true. It is true for many illegal immigrants with them being able to get such resources. So it's very unfortunate, very disheartening, especially for, like I said, us American citizens who've spent many, many, many years paying into this government for the purpose of paying into something to be available in the event that you're in need one day. And then for that day to come and you can't utilize the resources that does exist, the resources that you paid into, and you can't utilize them for whatever reason they give to you. Yeah, that's very disheartening and it's very unfair. Let's get back into the video. Thank you for your comment, Aqua Rose. Fair use.
Still a sanctuary city, we're still able to help you, which might help the non-asylum seekers that run this place feel good about themselves, but basically makes New York a sanctuary city in name only.
New York City sending 4,500 migrants back to Texas, offering free one-way plane and bus tickets to other states. So Abbott sends migrants to New York, then New York spends all this money, millions, to send them back to Texas. The Big Apple has spent more than $6.
So it's important to understand the overarching principle behind both of these bus programs. Everybody that got on a bus from Texas to come to New York did so willingly, but they probably wouldn't have done so willingly had they known that things would turn out different and that they'd just be getting on another bus to go back to Texas willingly after a couple of months. And people are just trying to go to a place where they think they're going to have the best opportunity for themselves and their families. That's why they came to New York in the first place, and now that's why they're leaving New York in the second place.
What's supposed to happen with these people when they go to Texas? So now are they just going to be in the streets in Texas? Like, because they came from Texas, went to New York, now going back to Texas. What's popping off in Texas? Now Texas got to get ready because now they're about to have an influx of immigrants on their streets in their community. And that, so therefore, when that happens, it's going to be an influx with everything, influx with homelessness, influx of unemployment, influx of crime. You've increased the population. So in every area that's impacted by people, there's going to be an impact in that area. It's going to be an impact in that area because now there's more people there. Jobs, those people in Texas now having more people to compete against to get jobs, schools, larger classroom sizes. These children are going to need to go to school. Aqua Rose says, yes, this is sad. Aqua Rose says, now Texas is screwed. I hope the Texans watching find this live stream because they coming. I don't know how long that trip is, that drive from New York to Texas is, but y'all, they coming. They on their way. They are on their way. Let me see. When was this video? I think this video was made like 24 hours. Like they probably there. They probably there. Today's Sunday. They probably there by now. Because this is, they're there. They got there this weekend. And we'll be hearing about it in the news as we hear about just the influx of just everything. Because remember, when you increase the population, just about every category of anything just starts to just be impacted. Because now there's more people to go, that has to be factored into that data. It's crazy. It is crazy. But listen, in the words of Deborah Cox, how did we get here? How did we get here? How did we get here? Biden, Kamala, I need somebody to tell us how we got here. Because it wasn't 4 years ago. It wasn't on this type of level. Like this got out of control just in the past 4 years. How did we get here? What they say, I need Kamala and Biden to step to the front of the congregation. I need somebody to step to the front of the congregation. Sue says, as a veteran, I've heard about veterans being kicked out of places in order to move migrants in. Yes, they are also getting countless benefits that many citizens cannot get when they need it. So, Sue, thanks for sharing that about the veterans, because I hadn't heard that one. I'm not surprised, but I hadn't, particularly heard about that one. But they got to find some places for these people to go. I remember hearing at the end of last school year in New York, them having like the kids taking over the local public schools. So the kids having to do homeschool because they needed to utilize that space at the schools for the migrants, the immigrants to house in. So they had the kids just doing online school, and them parents was not here for that. Because y'all know, like as a parent, like, listen, child, you know, that time where your child is physically at school and you're at home or handling whatever, doing whatever you need to do, like you need that time to where your child is someplace where you're not paying for no child care, but they're at school and you're back at home. You're at work, you're handling business. Like if kids have to be homeschooled, and not every adult have a job that they can work from home. Who's at home with these children while they have to do homeschool? These parents, a lot of them don't have jobs. Some of them work in service industries like customer service. They may work in grocery stores, in the mall, in a restaurant. These aren't things you can do at home. You got to physically be there. So how does that work out if your children's school campus, if that's closed for them to go to, and they have to be at home doing their lesson? Like, this is what the people in New York were venting about. I believe this was like last school year. And I was just, it's just very sad. Akaro says, and so many people fled from California and other expensive states to Texas for cheaper housing. This is going to be a real conundrum. Yes, because people move and go to places for reasons. I've been in Georgia since 96. I was in high school when I relocated in my family, my mom and my siblings. She had a job transfer. So that's how I got to the South. I was like 15 in high school, I did 10th grade. So I went to school up until 9th grade in California. I'm from the Bay Area, Northern California. Homelessness was always a thing in California, San Francisco in particular, but it was nowhere near on the level of what it is now. And, sometimes I'll see video footage of, how it looks now there. And it didn't look like that 20 plus years ago. So just as time is going, it's just getting worse and worse. And all of this is what we're talking about, is contributing to why it's getting worse as far as with the safety, crime, the housing situation. And then, like I said, if you got a lot of people vying for the same resources, the person who has the resources, they can price gouge on that. Kind of like when you think about gas gouge, price gouge. People will do that for anything that you sell. They'll do it for food. They'll do it for housing, car, anything. If they know that there's more demand than the supply, they're going to increase the price of that item. That's just the basics of how it works when it comes to like the supply and demand. The value of something increases when it's when the quantity is low. So we'll hear about it, in the Texas news as to, the impact. And it's probably going into this coming week. It'll be things hitting the news outlet, if not now, pertaining to, this taking place. Because is it even possible for them to try to get ready for this? I don't know. I wonder how much notice they had with knowing that these people are on their way back. It don't seem like it was a lot of notice, because Trump just got announced as the president, not even a full week yet. And already we're seeing these moving parts because people are scrambling, but it's time to do what they say. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. Well, sounds like President-elect Trump is like, okay, yeah, this is insanity. This is insanity. So it's time for us to do something different, because what we've been doing has not been working. And I think that is how he ended up, getting reelected, because a lot of people had the mindset of what we've been doing today has not worked. So a rational, logical person is going to say, hey, let's try to do something different, because what we've been doing ain't working. So let's just try to do something different. Even if it work or it don't work, at least let's try something different. And that's just anything that I talk about on any of my channels. If what you've been doing ain't been giving you the results you want, bruh, sis, it's time to move around and do something different. It ain't that deep. Like, it's real basic and simple. It's just time to do something else. It's time to try something else. Even if what you tried, that don't even work. But at least you tried something. You have to move around and keep doing whatever moving around until you find what works. You cannot continue to spin your wheels and do something that ain't working. That's insanity right there. That is insanity. And that's what we've been dealing with, insanity, for too long, too dang on long. Let's get back to the interview. The video. Like, share, subscribe as you come in. Make sure y'all have the notification bell hit as well. I just learned that from YouTube that if some people complain about not getting notifications, what I've learned, YouTube has said, this came from YouTube, that when that happens, that means that 3 times in a row, consecutively, you got notifications and you did not watch the content. So when that happens, they then stop giving you the alert, the notification alert for that particular content creator. So when that happens, you have to go back in and re-hit the notification bell to trigger for them to start back notifying you. So remember what they say: you lose it or use it or lose it, use it or lose it. So when you're not watching the content of your favorite content creators, when you're getting those notifications, they're going to say, we don't need to notify this person no more. They're not watching it anyway. So go in for this channel, any channel, anybody you follow, and hit the notification bell again, just to make sure that YouTube recognizes that you still want to be notified for that particular content creator's content. So this came from YouTube. So just want to put that out there, because I get a lot of comments where, Sheik, I don't get your notifications. So give that a try. Go in, hit the notification bell again, and see what happens. And when the notification come up that says Sheik Live, y'all go and watch that content, because otherwise you're going to be back where you was at and not getting the notifications again. So let's get back to the video.
But that's not supposed to be how any of this worked out, because we've had over 200,000 people come to New York, which had its sanctuary city doors wide open and looked like it was going to be a place where people could start chasing after the American dream, which they were allowed to believe was going to happen when they got off buses and moved into our shelter system. But underneath the veneer of care that the city was putting forth was a big lie about opportunity that awaited people here, like jobs and a better future that just haven't existed ever. And now people have to leave and try to go find it somewhere else. And they're doing it with the city's help. But look at this, asylum seekers weren't the only ones who believed there was something good here waiting for them. As of October, there still should be 18,000 jobs out there for people who might live in shelters at the moment. But if those jobs are really out there and available to asylum seekers, it would be great for those companies or those businesses to start hiring, because we've got people living in tents outside of the shelters they've been evicted from because they've got nowhere else to go. And certainly a job from one of the 400 employers identified by the local government here would really help them pay rent and get off the streets. And certainly a job that someone could work at and provide for themselves would negate the ticket program New York City has to help people get on buses and leave town. Unless, of course, the job market here isn't as rosy as people are being told it is, and these jobs either aren't available or the positions have already been filled. And if the job market were as great for asylum seekers as we're being told, we probably wouldn't see the effects of mass unemployment at every single shelter in town, which proves that there is an opportunity here for them, and they were told that there was.
Lies and propaganda. Suze, you say you're in Texas. Question: how is the job market in Texas? How's your homelessness in Texas? And do you feel like your state can absorb all these migrants coming to your state? What city are you in? I've never visited, I've flown and had a layover in Texas, but it's on my bucket list to visit Texas, even though it's not that far from Georgia, but I've never gone to Texas. And my husband and I over the weekend were just talking about planning a trip to go there. I want to go to Houston and Dallas, probably spend a week, get a rental car, and travel between the two cities. Let me know. Let us know. What is it like right now in Texas? Can you all absorb the influx of people coming to your state, coming to your city, because they are on their way? Jobs, what's the jobs looking like? Will you all have work for these people? Because y'all know what they say, desperate times calls for desperate measures. When people start lacking, going without by any means necessary, that's when the crime starts to go up. When people get hungry, they're willing to do all kinds of stuff. You got some people to where when they get hungry, they get desperate. And then especially too, if they have families, they got the men have wives, girlfriends, children that they have to take care of and feed. They're willing to do whatever to get what they need to provide for their family. And unfortunately, that means doing some illegal things pertaining to, like, with robbery, drugs, trafficking, all kinds of things. A lot of it is rooted out of desperation. That's why they say, like, poverty, like your city, like places like, say, Chicago, places where there's like in the inner cities where there's high crime and things like that, there is a correlation between the crime and the poverty levels. Because when there's not the money, like the resources and things like that in these cities, then that's where you see that influx of crime, because people have the mindset. So this is not just an immigrant mindset. This is a mindset of anyone who's operating from lack. They're operating from lack. They're going to be like, listen, I got to go out here and get to it. I got to do what I got to do. I got to get to it. And whatever that means, it means the end game is to just get what I need. You hear a lot of rappers, musicians, they talk about it in their music where they say, hey, I was moving like this because I was hungry. I was homeless. My mama, what she was bringing home from her job, it wasn't enough. So at 13, at 12, at 8, at 11, I had to go outside and get it. I had to man up. I had to become the man of the house. Daddy wasn't here. I never knew my daddy. Daddy was locked up. Daddy was deceased. There is a story behind why people do what they do, in particular when people go down the wrong path. People don't just wake up and just choose to do some wrongful stuff. They do it because they feel like they're doing it out of necessity. Now, when they go before the judge, the laws, they ain't finna be here for, well, Your Honor, I was hungry. My mama was hungry. My baby sister was hungry. So that's why I did that. Listen, they gonna give you that time. You're gonna get that punishment. But I'm just telling you that this is what a lot of those behaviors are rooted from. It's rooted from lack. People, you don't hear most times somebody going before a judge and it's, say, dealing with robbery or something like that, where it was some rich person born with a silver spoon. Y'all know they do them different type of crimes. They do what they call the white collar crimes, the corporate crimes. I'm talking about the street crimes. You ain't seeing the rich and the elite, going before a judge for the street crimes. It's typically what the white collar crimes. So they getting that fed time, they getting that fed time. They're not getting that state time. So it's different type of crimes. I'm talking about that street crime, that dangerous, that crime, that life or death crime. Sue said, I say Texas overall cannot absorb. In fact, Governor Greg Abbott was abusing them to other states and even the White House. He did that when Democrats were in the office. Abbott is a Republican. So you said, listen, we ain't got it. In the words of Tasha K, we ain't got it. So I guess those people, my immigrants, they're about to see soon enough their life ain't going to be no better there than what it was in Texas. I mean, in New York, hell, if anything, they probably just going to feel like it's better weather. It's better weather in Texas. That sounds like that's going to be the only benefit with being in Texas versus New York, because the one time I visited New York as a kid, it was in the winter in December, and that's just not the place you want to be homeless in. It gets really cold. It snows. I never been to Texas like that, but I'm going to say that from a temperature perspective, it'd be better, it'd be more comfortable being homeless in Texas than in New York. But people about to feel it soon enough. So Sue's definitely keep us abreast on what is going on there. Sue says, in the area I live, many have moved out searching for cheaper rent. What city do you live in, Sue's, in Texas? What city are you in? That's, the area that I live. I don't live like in the city. So even like where I live, it's outside of the city. So it's going to be cheaper than like the inner city of Atlanta. but it's still expensive. Like, it's just still expensive everywhere. It's like the further away you go from the city, the cheaper it gets. So it's just, but at the further away you're going from the city, also the further away you're going from jobs. Uh, the further away you're from the city, you're more so, if you are, the jobs that you are working are going to be more of the lower wage jobs, the service jobs, like I said, working at the local stores, the restaurants. It's not going to be, those corporate office jobs, because those are pretty much in the city. Those are in the city. Let's see. Sue says, in the area I live in, many have moved out. Let me see where you say. Hi, Karen. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Sue says North Richland Hills. So I'm not familiar with North Richland Hills. How far is that from like Houston or Dallas? Are you close? Which one are you closer to? Child, listen, Austin, Houston, Dallas. Them the only cities that I know of. But it sounds like maybe it may be probably cheaper, probably where you live versus the Dallas or the Houston, those big cities, usually the bigger cities is where, like here in Atlanta, it's going to be more expensive living there. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. You said it's by Dallas. Okay. Thank you for that. And from my understanding, I think Dallas is going to be a more reasonable place to live than Houston. From my understanding of what I heard, Dallas isn't as developed. It's kind of like behind Houston. So Houston is more kind of like developed, and then Dallas kind of falls in line afterwards with trying to mimic or build the way Houston did. So that's my understanding of kind of when people tell me how to think between the two cities. Sue says, yes, cheaper where I live than Dallas or Houston. Sound about right. Typically, those cities that we know, everybody know of, are normally the more expensive places to live. The places we're like, where that at? Where is that at? Those are typically going to be the cheaper places because it's on the outskirts. So thank you for that, Susan. I appreciate that. Welcome you all. 10 of you in here. Thank you. Have you completed the poll? Like, share, subscribe. Make sure you got your notification bell on. We're going to get back to this video. It is just talking about how the governor in the governor in New York, or the mayor, I'm sorry, not the governor, the mayor is sending migrants, immigrants, illegal immigrants back to Texas. They're putting them on buses. This is what they were doing this week after Trump was announced to be our next president. So they were like, listen, yeah, it's a new day. I know we told y'all that we got y'all, but we don't. So the best we can do is get you this little bus ticket, put you on this bus and get you this one-way bus ticket and send you to Texas and hope for the best. That's all we got, because we ain't got nothing else. We ain't got no resources. Trump coming in here and he's shutting all that down. So I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. Keep your head up. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your loved ones. Peace. That's the message that I've interpreted that New York has given these people. That's the messaging that I've interpreted. Sue says, however, when you're doing by yourself isn't always easy, right? That's just anywhere when you're doing something by yourself. And then when you got children, child, baby, that takes it to a whole nother level when you got people depending on you. It's one thing to be out there homeless, but be homeless with children, that's on a different level. Sue says, is that the mayor in New York who's also in trouble? I believe so, because I ain't heard about no other mayor. Let me see. Let me see the mayor of New York. I think that, yeah, Mayor Eric Adams. Yes, Mayor Eric Adams. Yes. Yeah, because I just found this article. Mayor Adams discusses ending migrant voucher program, working with Trump administration. So yes, that is who it is. He like, listen, I know what I told y'all. My bad. But Trump said that we got to shut all this ish down. So yeah, with that being said, it's been real. We did the best we can. We tried it. It's time for y'all to roll out. So yes, Mayor Adams, yes. Mayor Adams is the person who's saying, listen, y'all got to roll up out of here. Mayor Adams, his name is, what's his full name? What did I say his name is? Mayor Adams. Yeah, we're gonna call him Mayor Adams. But let's get back to this video we're watching, because listen, this man dropping all the tea on what's going down in New York. They putting these people back on buses and saying, I don't know where you, but you got to get the H on out of here. We give you this one-way ticket to Texas. When you get there, you on your own. It ain't our business. So that's the messaging they got. So fair use. Let's get back to this video.
Back to politics again. Now New York has seen that they can't handle the situation, because not only just the amount of people, but also economically as well. So I can tell you for a fact that in Texas, we're going to continue busing them to these sanctuary cities, because again, these are sanctuary cities. They did welcome immigrants from day one.
So all of this opportunity that people were led to believe was here turned out to be a big lie. And this is evident in the city's own reporting. Remember, over 200,000 asylum seekers have come here. We've got tens of thousands of jobs available, but only 2,000 people, according to this article, have actually been connected with employment. And although some asylum seekers have to wait a month and others have to wait 6 months to get work authorization, this crisis is 2 years old at this point, and only 2,000 people have been connected with jobs. That's not a system that's working out in anybody's favor. And if someone moves into one of our asylum shelters and they can only stay for 1 or 2 months, but they're unable to get a job and unable to start providing for themselves, and then they have to move out, what other option do they have other than to live in a tent outside of that shelter, as some people are doing, or to get on a bus and try to make it somewhere else? Well, obviously, most people are leaving, and it looks like 47,000 one-way tickets have been purchased in total since this program started. And 40,000 one-way tickets means that 22% of the 212,000 asylum seekers who've come here have been paid to leave in some capacity. And what that means is the asylum programs we have to care for people in New York aren't as helpful as we may have thought.
Political strategists say, much like the trend nationally, many New York voters this year were driven by the economy and immigration, especially after Texas Governor Greg Abbott started busing migrants here 2 years ago.
If you have Democrats in charge of the state, Democrats in charge of the city, Democrats in charge of the country, if you're not happy, you kind of go to their vote.
Now, as you're about to see, our progressive leaders, they're not paying attention to how ineffective these policies are, and they're actually about to double down on them, in spite of the fact that they aren't working, and in spite of the fact that voters, in greater numbers than ever before, are voicing their opposition to them. And even though many people are starting to figure out that the asylum crisis isn't helping anybody, our leaders aren't of that mindset. Because here in New York, you've got an electorate that does not like Donald Trump. Remember, he lost this state, and what that means is the politicians that we have here, it's going to be their mandate to resist whatever his plans are for New York City and for immigration as a whole for this country. And although this might not be true of every district in New York State, some of which recently voted red for the first time, in New York City itself, especially places like Brooklyn that voted 80% in favor of Vice President Harris, the mandate still holds. But as you're about to see, when progressive policies aren't working, admitting that they don't work isn't part of the equation. Instead, the reason they failed is because they weren't progressive enough, or we didn't have enough of them, or we ran out of money. Which is why New York City is about to do more of the things that aren't helping asylum seekers at all, but are in fact making their lives even tougher. So the longer the asylum crisis continues, the more apparent it becomes that progressive sanctuary cities do absolutely nothing to help those who want to become law-abiding permanent residents. Yet after the election, New York City's leaders have already announced their plans to fight tooth and nail against every immigration policy President Trump tries to enact once he takes office, which means New York is going to become even more of a sanctuary city than it is right now.
President-elect Donald Trump promised sweeping changes to what he painted as an out-of-control immigration system. And now with his presidency secured, immigration advocates in New York City say they're bracing for what's to come.
We're going to fight it. We're as prepared, if not more prepared than the first time around. We fought him not just in the streets.
I'm sorry, I don't want to single out this one particular person, but what is this idea? What are people fighting against? What does New York City think it can do to control U.S. immigration policy? If anything, the asylum crisis proves that New York has no control over federal immigration policy. Because for the last 2 years, the asylum crisis has absolutely exploded here. And
Again, what is the fight for? Insanity. I said, if it ain't working, it ain't working. Sue said he's the one who opened his arms wide open, inviting the immigrants to come there. Karen said, I live in New Jersey, but about an hour from New York City. Karen, in New Jersey, have you seen an influx of immigrants making their way to New Jersey? Because they're getting removed from the temporary housing that they had and being put on the streets. So have you taken notice to any of them making their way to New Jersey? Because I do know it seemed like, it's easy for people to cross between the two states. Some people live in New Jersey, work in New York. So I know that's a whole thing. So that leads me to believe that it would be very easy for immigrants who are on the streets of New York to just make their way to New Jersey to look for work or whatever it is that they doing, housing. What is it like, with the homelessness and things like that for New Jersey? Karen, that's the question I have. Akaro says Eric Adams was just indicted a month ago after a federal corruption investigation. Yes, I've seen articles where people feel like, it's him trying to play nice in hopes that he can get pardoned because of the trouble that he's in. So he's trying to abide by all the rules, because he well, listen, if I can do what, the Trump administration want me to do, maybe they'll look out for me and pardon me on some of these charges that I'm hit with. So some people think it's a play, it's a strategy that he has to get in the Trump administration good graces. We will see. Sue says, yes, exactly, indicted. So Adam's like, listen, I gotta look out for myself. So if I gotta send these people on because Trump listen here, then I gotta do what I gotta do. But I got some information on Eric Adams as well. I want to get through this video, but I want to get into the latest on what's going on over there with the vouchers and things that he's halted because of Trump coming into play and saying, listen, we're not doing this no more. We're not doing this anymore. So Mayor Eric Adams is trying to make some changes in New York in hopes that, for the purpose of lining up with what Trump's new direction is as it pertains to immigration and things like that. We're getting that under control. But let's get back to this video. We're nearing the end. New York buses migrants back to Texas because Trump won. Fair use.
It's not benefiting the lives of people who fled poverty thinking they'd come here and experience heaven on earth. That has not happened at all. But what has happened is the prolonging of poverty, the prolonging of suffering and joblessness. And this all happened before Trump was even president and didn't look like he had a chance to ever get back in the White House. And if anything, the last 2 years have been a great opportunity for sanctuary cities in this country to prove how great they are and how much they can help people. But they haven't proved that. But they have proved they can harbor dangerous gang members and wanted fugitives from federal immigration authorities who are trying to keep people safe. We'll get to that too, but people shouldn't need free tickets to get on a bus like this if there's something here that benefits them. With this crisis not directly benefiting the very people it's named after, you've got to wonder who's actually in favor of this. Obviously, it's politicians that now see themselves as the resistance to a president that hasn't even taken office yet. It benefits the bus companies who now get to make more money transporting some of the very same people back to Texas, where they got paid to bring them here. And sadly, it also benefits people who aren't allowed to legally reside in the country and are on some sort of federal wanted list. And those people are not the asylum seekers. Asylum seekers, they can reside anywhere in the country they want because they're here while they wait for a court date in the future. If you don't have an asylum court date, or if you have been ordered to leave the country, you've only got one choice, and that's to come to a sanctuary city. And who does that? Well, we know the gang members are doing it. They've been caught living in some of our shelters right here in New York, using them as a base to commit crime all over our city. Yet because we're a sanctuary city, there's nothing that can be done to remove the criminal element from places that are supposed to help people. And this small number of people is doing great damage to our city, and they're causing great harm to asylum seekers who they are here to exploit. And sanctuary city status allows these folks to hide here while living relatively normal lives compared to being fugitives in other parts of the country. Here, your immigration status doesn't matter. And the scary thing about this gang is the way that they operate is through human exploitation. exploitation? And how is allowing them to live in shelters where you have families and little kids who are trying to start a new life a good idea for anybody? It's not. Yet by promising to resist and fight against Trump by putting forth policies that ultimately only benefit criminals, our leaders aren't creating a safe space for immigrants in any way, but they are creating a safe space for some very unsafe people.
Trump has promised mass deportations using the National Guard to round up immigrants and bringing back policies he put in place during his first term. Mayor Eric Adams has repeatedly pressed the current administration for federal assistance as the city's resources struggle to keep up with the wave of asylum seekers arriving in the city.
So this whole asylum crisis, it's a manufactured mess. And what does the city do? Well, they allow the mess to continue, and then they beg the federal government for money to solve it. Now, Mayor Adams is bound by the law. He has to carry out right to shelter, whether he likes it or not. And to do it, he's going to need massive amounts of money. And the hope when this whole crisis started is that that money would come from the federal government, but it never did. But even though New York didn't receive the massive amounts of money needed to house the entire world, which is what's going to happen when you have sanctuary city status and a right to shelter, they still had to go through that, which did keep people, especially families with little kids, from having to live on the streets. Yes, right to shelter did accomplish that. Nobody wants to see families on the streets. But because we're not a law and order state, and because we're a sanctuary city, having families live in a shelter system that is also populated with gang members who are trying to recruit new members and find people who they can exploit, that's not a good situation either. And that's the situation we're now dealing with, and that we're now saying we're going to do everything in our power here in New York to maintain. And what's crazy is that New York City's shelters wouldn't be like this if we were not a sanctuary city. If we had a right to shelter and we still housed asylum seekers, the situation in those shelters would look very different if police were actually allowed inside, but they're not allowed in. Police can't patrol these places, but the gang members who live in them can, and they are. And these gangs are fueled by two things, which the asylum crisis here in its current state gives them: lawlessness and poverty. They've been exploiting the poor in their own countries, which is why those folks fled. And now those folks have to flee again, many of them on the very same buses that brought them here. This system is not working, yet it's going to continue in the future as a symbol of resistance and as a symbol of New York City's progressive values. Is that what's going on here? Is that why this system that's not helping anybody is going to continue? Or is there another reason? Do you think that this is part of the resistance against an incoming president who says he wants to make sweeping changes to U.S. immigration law? Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I'll see you in the next video.
Crazy. Karen says my small town has always had a majority of immigrants with no papers. And I know many because of many years I spent in the schools. I don't think the new ones that were bused here are here. Okay. So as you see, this has been a thing for a very long time. And the fact of New York trying to fight, as far as with their government, whoever, trying to fight against whatever it is that Trump's trying to put in place, which they've been doing, hasn't even been working. So I don't even understand the sense or the logic in that, to fight against something that hasn't even been working. Like, where is this money coming from to continue to house these undocumented people? Especially if it's not coming from the federal government, the state don't have it. So to me, it sounds like, okay, it's an issue and the people shouldn't continue to come there if you do not have the money, the resources, shelter, food, jobs. Like, why do you still want to just welcome these people to come? It makes no sense at all. It makes no sense. And as I say, all of this impacts the crime rate. It impacts the crime rate. Karen says many here are from Mexico. Most live with many families to one apartment. Yeah, like ever since I was a kid, like when it would come to just seeing, just Mexican families and how they live, they will live together. They'll live together until they get their money up to be able to go and get additional homes. And even when that happens, they're welcoming other family members, friends to come into the country and to stay with them until they get on their feet. So they continue to just help one another out. So my thing is, that's an awesome system to have in place if people are coming over legally, because you're helping one another. Nothing wrong with that. It's a whole problem when people are not coming over here legally and they're using up the resources that starts to dwindle down and become no longer available for the American citizens. So, and then a lot of times they don't become available for us because, okay, the money's gone, there's no more resources left, or they just make it hard for American citizens and we just get the hard no, the hard pass. Very sad, very sad. Karen says rents in New Jersey are over the roof. My youngest child lives in Newark, and I recently had to help my youngest move to a different apartment in Newark, and it's one of the highest in the country. Yes, rent is high everywhere. Like I said, the South, in particular, Georgia, Atlanta is known as, typically was, I don't know how it is now, but it was known as one of the more affordable states to live in. But it's expensive here now. You know, the average house here is maybe about $460,000, and that's just a house on a slab. So if you know when you're, and that's just like probably like a basic house, like a basic 3-bedroom house, like 2-level, like real basic. You don't be looking for nothing special. It's real basic, and that's because everything things have gotten so expensive here, and jobs, you know. The job market isn't what it used to be. People can't afford to purchase homes anymore. They can't get mortgages, so they're trying to pay rent, and rent is expensive. So even the ones who are paying rent, they're happen to have roommates, you know, multiple people underneath one roof to help pay the rent. And this is a situation in not so favorable areas as well as favorable areas. It's just expensive. It's just very, very expensive to live today. And as far as let me see, governor, no, we were talking about mayor, the mayor of New York. So I want to talk about this voucher program that he's put into halt. So let me share my screen over here. But there was like a voucher program that they had for the immigrants, and he like, you know what? Nah, yeah, we ain't got it no more. Like, it was nice while it lasted, but we ain't got it no more. We don't have it anymore. So let me see. Make sure you all can see my screen. All right. So this is from a local news, ABC 7 New York. It says Mayor Adams discusses ending migrant voucher program working with Trump administration. So you all please like, share, and subscribe. Make sure have you hit the like button. Please take a moment for me as I get this together, and hit the like button for me. Thank you. I welcome you being here. If you're new to my channel, I am Chic. Welcome to my channel, Chic Speaks on It. And right now we're just getting into just this whole issue, because it's an issue with the immigration and illegal immigrants being just shuffled to different places. And that's the thing. And the bad part about it all is, like, many of these illegal immigrants, you know, they've come with children. So the children being moved all over the place, the babies, like, that's just a lot. It's just a lot on the child. Like, that just creates traumas. Again, it opens up more opportunities for children to be violated. We all know in our country, really in the world, trafficking is a big issue, but in particular in the USA, trafficking is a big issue. So as we have people just so easily, as we see, just coming in and out of our country, to me, it makes for something like trafficking to take place fairly easily, really, because there's so many people. Like, how do you keep an eye on everyone that's moving around? It just creates just dangerous environments for people. Karen says, I don't think any city was really ready for so many people. No, I mean, no city was. And that's why everything's out of control. Crime's out of control. Homelessness is out of control. We weren't ready. We were not ready. But this is what happens with poor planning, when decisions are made for personal gains and not for just what's best for everyone. And, you know, when I say everyone, meaning the country, what's best for our country as a whole. And just when politics is involved, it, like, y'all know, it's just a money. Everything is centered around money. It's very unfortunate, but that's what it all typically circles back around to, money. And given that a lot of these illegals have been able to just walk in, it has to have been for a particular reason. And that's when we have to stop and really think about what are some reasons as to why our government, because for the problem to be out of hand on this level, that's on the government level. That's not, okay, Karen saying or Sue saying, yeah, sure, you can come over. We're not running nothing. It's the powers that be. It's the government. What's the reason as to why they allow people to just so easily just come into our country? What is the reason? Some people think, well, for numbers wise, for voting, okay, hey, we'll let you come into our country in exchange for when it's time to vote, we somehow make a way for you to get your vote counted. It's different types of things as to why, different types of reasons as to why some of these people have been allowed to come in here. But we have to really think and use common sense and really think, why would the government leave the borders open so wide? It had to have been for a gain. Let's talk about what are some potential gains for our country to allow something like this. Because y'all know our country ain't moving with trying to just do something all willy-nilly. No, it's going to be for a benefit. Like for this to have happened, it had to have been for some type of benefit. What type of benefit could it have been? Just think about that and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Sue says the government was busing them in under the cover of darkness. They were being promised something or someone was in bed with someone. Yes, the vote thing too. Yes, all of that. I believe with all of that. It was for something in exchange. Like, hey, you come over here and do this for us, then we'll do this. We'll get you straight. We'll give you housing. We'll give you the assistance. We'll make sure you got food. We'll make sure you got a job. And here's the thing, what I think was happening is that the government promised them these things and the government didn't always deliver on everything. So I don't think, things was taking place on both sides based on what the promise was. I think that them coming over was largely to benefit, the government. But as we talk about what are these benefits? And I think voting has a lot to do with it as to the reasons for it. But it didn't work out. It didn't work out because Trump still managed to secure the vote by a landslide. Like you can't even say it was some trickery or foolishness. If anything, the trickery came from people saying, I'm a vote for Biden, or I'm a vote for Kamala, and then went behind the booth and voted for Biden. That was a trickery that people did on one another. But on a government level, it definitely was no trickery. It was no trickery. So it didn't work, as Sue said. No, it didn't work. What they say, when something ain't done on the up and up, no, it's not going to work. When you're not on the up and up and you're not trying to go about things the right way, it doesn't work. That's life. When you try to just be on some other type of stuff, it don't work. It don't work. It just doesn't ever work favorably when you're not doing things for the right reasons. But let's get into this clip with Mayor Adams discussing Indy migrant voucher program as he's working with the Trump administration. Let's see what he talked about, y'all. Let's see, because this man like, listen, I'm trying to stay out of jail, so I got to do what I got to do. Please hit the like button as you come on in. Fair use. Let's go.
New York. Lots of news involving Mayor Adams today, and today he's joining us live on Eyewitness News.
Mr. Mayor, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We want to start.
Good to see you both.
Yes, great to see you too. We want to start with your decision late this afternoon to end that food voucher program for immigrants. What led to this decision, and why now?
Well, it was an emergency contract for a sunsetting 1 year. That was what it was in place for 1 year. And now we have moved away from emergency response because we have had a constant decrease in our population. And now we're going to the procurement process that we do now for food. But we've been successful with that program. We brought down food waste. We were able to get several thousand individuals to have culturally sensitive food at the same time, and it was successful for the time being. And now we move into the general putting out the RFPs that are needed. It was an emergency, and now we move in another direction.
Funding, of course, the big issue surrounding the city, and has been the big issue surrounding your tenure to some degree. Let's talk about some other crucial issues, though. You talked yesterday to President-elect Trump. What did you talk about, and did it involve any funding for New York City, or perhaps lack of funding?
Well, I've been very consistent about private conversations. I don't go into them, but I'm clear. I'm here to fight on behalf of this city. You can't hold your breath and wait 4 years before you start bringing back those resources to the city. We have a new president, and I'm going to collaborate with his administration to deal with some pressing issues that are facing our city, particularly around funding. When you look at the billions of dollars we spent with the migrants and asylum seekers, we got very little help from the federal government. And I think it's imperative that we engage on the right of foot to say New York needs infrastructure, affordability, and other big ticket items.
Well, Mayor, speaking of the new president, do you think the Trump presidency will have an impact on your federal case? Are you hoping the charges will be dropped? We do know that he said that you were being unfairly targeted because of your criticism of the Biden administration's immigration policy. What are your thoughts on that? And have you spoken to Trump about this?
No, I did not, and I've been extremely clear that I've done nothing wrong, and I have competent attorneys that are going to handle that case. My job is to do what I was elected to do, and that's fight on behalf of New Yorkers. And anyone who conflate the two just really don't know who I've been for the last 30 plus years as a public servant, from a police officer to an elected official. I'm going to fight and defend this city. This city deserves that, and that is what I'm going to continue to do.
Okay. And just quickly, Mayor, are you hoping that he drops the charges?
My attorney, anything that's dealing with my case, I have an excellent attorney that can handle those questions. I have to answer the questions of how to move the city forward, and I'm not going to allow anything to get in the way of that.
We'll call the lawyer later tonight and ask him the questions. I do want to talk to you a little bit more about financial assistance. You were quite critical of the lack of financial assistance. President Biden didn't help fund the flood of migrants coming into New York. It's hard to imagine Donald Trump's going to, in all honesty, Mayor, going to boost any funding to pay for that. And in fact, he may order them out of the country, as we well know. People who live here and work here and their children are going to school here in the public schools. Mr. Mayor, let's talk about that cost of all that and what your hopes are for Mr. Trump.
Well, first we need to deal with the reality. Over 220,000 migrants and asylum seekers came to the city, and we spent billions of taxpayers' dollars to take care of this issue, as well as other cities, Chicago, Denver, Los Angeles. When you look at those tax dollars not going to the residents of those cities to deal with the crucial issues we had to face coming out of COVID, I found that troubling, and I was clearly vociferous about it. But this is a sanctuary city. I think that the modification that was last made under the previous administration was the wrong modification. When it was put in place under Koch and under Bloomberg, it had a different concept. I don't believe people who come to the city and create violent crimes should not remain in the city, and we should have the right, after they serve their time, to turn them over to ICE. But we're going to continue to do the role. This is a city of immigrants, and many people are here undocumented. We want them to continue to know that their police department, their hospitals, and the educational system is going to be here to provide what we've provided for years.
Okay, that's the nature of a sanctuary city. Agree with that.
And Mr. Mayor, you announced a lawsuit against a vaping company. How big of a problem is this industry in New York City, and how do you think this one lawsuit is going to help stop it?
All right, so listen, they got to it. They like, listen, sir, are you doing this to save your own self? Yes, and that's not what he said, but y'all, we know what it's about. This man's like, listen, I got these charges, and I want to make sure that Trump know that I'm Team Trump, and I'm trying to help him and move the way he wants us to move here. So you damn right, but he ain't gonna say that though. He's not gonna say that. But did you all take notice of like the immigrants, the legal immigrants that were getting, off the bus? Like most of them, like they had little babies. They were holding little babies. They had children. So, as I say, it's like we got kids involved and all the moving around that these kids and the parents got to make sure that they keep up with these kids and, they not get lost in the shuffle. It's just a lot. Sue says, I'm originally from the East Coast. No, Mr. Adams, you turned your nose up to the people of New York and could care less about them. Cops were being attacked there and not allowed to fight back. So Seuss, you like, listen, I'm from the East Coast. He lying. He on some other stuff. So it sounds like, are you saying he's just another politician that's about self-interest? Remember, everything is rooted in money. And I'm glad that the news did ask him like the obvious questions, like, are you doing this because you in some hot water yourself and you want to be in Trump's good graces, so therefore he can pardon you and throw them charges out. So I definitely believe that is what's taking place with him, even though he's not going to say it. I mean, do you expect him to say it? But I think that's very much so what is happening. In all, it's just it's a serious matter. Um, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that it got out of hand to this point, because I just think that it just makes things worse. The fact that they didn't deal with it, this current administration didn't deal with it the way they should have. So now things have just gotten out of hand. And here we are. It's out of control. Here we are. So now Trump's just trying to figure out a plan to just get it under control. And, as we've seen the numbers, when we first started this live at the beginning, it's projected to cost a lot of money, billions, over 200 billion, to deport 11 million illegal immigrants. So here's my thing. With numbers like that, I feel like we should see it in the like when I say see it, like when you look around and just with the number of people that are around, I feel like you will see 11 million. Like that would be something to where locally in your cities, your states, you'll be like, oh, it's fewer people. It's less traffic. It's less people I see on work sites. It's less projects taking place at one time, with building of home. It's less builders um, throwing up new home communities, because a lot of the workers are immigrant, whether they're legal or illegal, I don't know, but a lot of workers who do the carpentry type work, build homes, buildings, they're immigrants. They're of a Hispanic descent. I feel like with 11 million removed from this country, we'll see that. Like we'll feel that impact. We'll see it. Like we'll take notice of it. And it just, the question is, how, like, will people view it as a positive thing with taking notice of that, or will there people view it as a negative thing? Workers in employment, will they feel like, okay, because they're gone, we're down bad, we can't produce as much? As far as with the new home developments, we can't build houses as quickly. We can't provide services in as timely of a matter because we have fewer employees, because a lot of our employees were immigrants. So now we have challenges of, okay, backfilling those positions, finding people who will take those positions. Here's the thing with that. Remember earlier I talked about how an illegal immigrant will likely accept lower wages than, say, an American citizen. So now these business people, they'll have the challenges of, okay, they're used to paying somebody $10 an hour to, say, do this job. Now they're gone, and you have American citizens, and Americans like, listen, I need 20 for it. So now that business owner is now having to pay out more money in order to get the job done, because they need the job done. So now they're like, okay, well, since now I'm paying out more money, I can't do as much because my overhead count is more. So instead of simultaneously maybe having 5 projects going on, we're only able to have 1 or 2 projects going on. You see, so it's going to be like this domino effect where it's going to just about affect everybody. When we go to restaurants, the amount of time it takes for us to be tended to, because they're like, well, we don't have our staff. We're not fully staffed. We don't have enough people to provide, the quick, speedy service that we once did, because our head count is lower. We got jobs, we got openings to fill positions, and we're not able to fill them fast enough. We don't have a lot of people who are interested, to doing the jobs for the amount of money that the job pay. So we'll have to have patience with that. Like it's going to be what they call it growing pains, where we'll have to grow through that. But at the end of the day, it'll be, I think, for the better good, I feel like. But for a while, we'll have to get accustomed to having 11 million fewer people. Like that's a lot of people. And it may likely take his entire presidential term, 4 years, to navigate. It's going to take 4 years just for him to even try to even hit them numbers, to even have people, all those people deported. But even post with him hitting those numbers, for us to get acclimated to having 11 million fewer people, which goes into employment with fewer people working these jobs, it's going to take a minute for us to get used to, working through that with not having those people there to provide those services uh, the way they once did. And just even getting used to that can probably be like another 4 years. But here's the thing, when say 4 years, Trump does 4 years, and then say Democrats, whoever, they get in back, get the White House again, do they go back to the old ways and start letting them back in, and then we get back in the same boat? You see, that's why voting is important, and you got to really understand the policies that people have, like what are they running on, and then you vote based on like your best interests. You vote for, first and foremost, for your best interests, and then you look at the policies that they're wanting to implementing. What type of impact for the country as a whole is going to have? Will it be for the greater good? Because a lot of times it's not. Remember, I said everything is rooted in money and how a particular party or person can actually benefit. And us people, us regular people, like we're not winning at all. We're just the little people. We're not winning at all. We're the ones taking the hit. We're taking the hit. Karen says, where are these people going to eat? And the soup kitchen lines will be horrible. Questions. Good questions. I don't know the answers to them, Karen. Karen says, if Trump plan goes into effect after he gets these first people gone, is he going to go door to door to ask for papers? Now, that's the thing I haven't heard about. People have been talking about, what is this plan supposed to look like? I think it's going to probably consist of that. I think some of the reports the clips and things that I've been listening to, there was one with CNN I was listening to, and that's kind of what they talked about, where it seems like that would probably be what he'd do. He'd go to door, knocking on doors, and go to job sites. So remember, I talked about like some of these jobs they do, like blue collar jobs. So showing up on these job sites, asking for papers and things like that. So I think it's going to be a combination of both, going door to door and going to job sites. And then maybe they may just be on the streets. Remember, I said in my community, there's places where immigrants can go kind of stand in front of like a business or a parking lot and wait for someone to come by who need workers, who need labor for the day, for a project. And they'll just go and hang out there for the day until someone comes by in a truck or something and say, I need 2, I need 3, whatever. And whoever is interested in, doing the job will, first come, first serve, will be able to, get into the vehicle and ride off to go do the job. So they may show up to those type of places and be like, hey, can you show me your papers? That's going to also be the thing that's going to become, I can foresee kind of people looking at as an issue, where them just, it almost remind me of that whole, remember New York had the whole stop and frisk thing. I don't know if that's still a thing out there, where I think the police had the right to, at whatever, if they felt like it was warranted, if they just felt like it, they can kind of stop you, question you, do whatever, because they feel like, for whatever. So this kind of reminds me of that, where, the government will be doing things like that, where you can kind of go and just start questioning, random people, if you question of whether or not they're citizens. And here's the thing, I feel like some American citizens will end up, being impacted by that, because let's just say they're Mexican American, or they're here, they're immigrants, but they're here legally. They may feel a certain type of way with just being stopped and questioned. And then they may want to start maybe trying to file lawsuits for discrimination, unfair treatment. It's so many levels to it. That's why I say this situation has just gotten out of hand to where I can see people feeling like their rights are, their privacy, their rights, they're being violated. They have been harassed. They're being discriminated against. And I'm talking about the ones who are actually outright citizens, because the government, Trump, they're not going to know from looking at someone on the outside of whether or not you're illegal or not. You're going to just have to stop it. You're just going to have to ask, right? So it's going to be people who are going to get asked questions, and they're going to be like, you're out of line. Why are you questioning me? And I think, we'll hear about some people wanting to file lawsuits because of that, feeling like they're being treated unfairly or discriminated against. So that's what I foresee. That's what I foresee. Sue says the paper thing could cause, say, racist cop to pull certain people over just because, exactly, like I see that happening. That was another thing. I didn't think about that. Yeah, pulling people over. Say if you see a Hispanic driving, and then listen, it's immigrants isn't just Hispanic people. You got some people, from countries over in Africa that are here. Haitians, just people from all over that are here. So someone who's, my skin color, it's like looking at someone on the outside, you can't tell if whether or not they're here illegally or not. It's only how you know is if you question them, and then based on the response that they give you, it kind of goes from there. But just looking at someone, you can't tell if someone's legal or not, or if they're here illegally. So it's an entire mess. I definitely think it's going to get worse before it gets better. We will hear about it. Let me see. Karen says there will be lots that look any certain way that will be questioned. Yeah, a lot of people will be questioned. Brown people, let's just say that. White people, if you got the white skin, not so much. But most of the people, who are immigrants that are coming over here, and it's shown to be illegal, they're brown people. So those are the primary people who are going to kind of feel as though they're being discriminated against. And then you're going to, have the lawsuits flying around. And then that's going to be a whole thing, that Trump is going to have to deal with as far as with the lawsuits against, law enforcement, suing the government. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be out of hand. I just foresee it. Sue says, stay safe, everyone, regardless. Yes, thank you for that. I agree. Everyone stay safe. Karen says citizens will have to carry their papers. Right. So citizens, carry their papers. Or if you have a driver's license, I'm American citizen, so I don't have papers per se. I have a driver's license, which you should always have some type of form of ID on you at all times. But it's just going to be just people getting questioned in ways that they've never been questioned before. And they're going to feel a way about it. They're going to feel like they're harassed, especially if some feel like they're getting questioned multiple times. Because let's just say somebody questioned you on Tuesday, a different person could question you on Friday. They didn't know somebody questioned you on Tuesday. So at this point, you're starting to feel like you're getting harassed because of what you look like. Think about that. Like, there's so many, our government, in America and the USA, people sue one another all the time. Things, go to court. And I think the courts are really going to feel it with an influx of lawsuits coming in once Trump come in and start implementing things. Because to hit the number of the 11 million, you're going to have to start questioning people, because you can't do it any other way. There's no other way for him to know. So he's going to have to, question people, not him per se, but, people who report to him, whoever he's designating to handle this. I would imagine, it'll be local law enforcement. Military may play a part in it. What else? Just different levels. And you got your school systems, with them, scrutinizing and, asking for certain things. And people gonna feel a way about being questioned in ways that they never was questioned before. Y'all know people don't like being questioned. People do not like being questioned, but it's gonna be a new day where Brown people about to get questioned. Brown people are going to get questioned. So I'm going to continue to follow this story. You all, thank you for joining. Please drop comments on the video if anything that you learned new pertaining to this situation. I'm going to continue to follow it. I'm going to keep my ear to the streets on like what Trump's plan is to work through this situation, because I don't think he's outright really spelled it out. So right now it's just a lot of people speculating on how it could go, and then creating scenarios or trying to put game plans in place as to how they can work against him depending on the direction he tries to take things. So again, right now, a lot of lawyers in New York, they're gearing up. They're ready to go to battle in courts behind this situation. So it's going to be heavy in the courtrooms, with the filing of the lawsuits. People who got their attorney license, listen, the work is going to be there. The work is going to be there. If you're an immigration attorney, it's going to be insane. It's going to be insane. Sue said a plan of action needed. Yes, I think both sides are going to be working on plan of actions. Both sides. When I say both sides, I mean the federal government. Federal government equates to Trump. And then the other side is going to be like the local governments in each state. And, as we see, some states are primary Democrat, some are primary Republic. I think the ones that are primary Democrat, they're going to give him a serious fight. He's definitely going to have to fight. So, but we're going to be here to talk about it as usual. We are going to be here to talk about it. I thank each and every one of you for joining me on this live. Please make sure you like, share, and subscribe so you know when I go live. I like to end by saying go out into the world and show up in a way in which you want others to show up for you. Like attracts like. Be positive, think positive, give off positive energy to others, because in return, you will receive the same thing. Like attracts like. It is what it is. You are what you think. You think positively. Positive things will show up right before you in the 3D, in the physical form. You think negative things will show up right before you in the 3D form. So you are what you think. Think positive. With that being said, you all, happy Sunday. Have a wonderful Sunday. Thank you, Suze. Thank you, Karen. I appreciate you all for engaging with me in this chat on this topic. Everyone, take care of yourselves and one another. Most importantly, take care of yourselves. I am Chic. Peace. I'll catch you on the next broadcast.